Madam Deputy Clerk, time is 7 p.m. I'm going to call this public planning meeting to order. Town of Aurora acknowledges that the Anishinaabe lands on which we live and work are the traditional and treaty territories of Chippewas of Eugene Island, as well as many other nations whose presence here continues to this day. As the closest First Nation community to Aurora, we recognize the special relationship the Chippewas have with the lands and waters of this territory. They are the water protectors and environmental stewards of these lands, and as a municipality, we join them in these responsibilities. We further acknowledge that Aurora is part of the treaty lands of the Mississaugas and Chippewas recognized through Treaty Number 13, as well as the Williams Treaties of 1923. Shared understanding of the rich cultural heritage that has existed for centuries and how our collective past brought us where we are today will help us walk together into a better future. Council, can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Councilor Weiss, Councilor Kim, comments, questions? Call the vote. Councilor Gardner, is that a yes? Is that what that meant? Yes? Thank you. Councilor Gardner's yes. That carries. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Welcome to Aurora's special public planning meeting. The purpose of this public meeting is to inform the public and obtain public input regarding the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application. For the planning application that will be considered by council tonight, the following process will occur. 1, town planning staff will outline the purpose of the planning application being considered. 2, then the applicant will be given an opportunity to make a presentation and address issues raised in the staff report or public concerns already filed. 3, following these presentations, members of the public will be invited to offer their comments or concerns respecting the item virtually or in person and may speak twice up to 5 minutes each time. 4, following comments from members of the public, I will then ask members of council for their comments. It is very important that the town receive the correct names and addresses of individuals having an interest in the planning application. Therefore, if you plan to speak to council at this meeting, or if you wish to be notified of any further council committee meetings concerning the application being considered, you must complete a planning interested party and speaker request form available on the town's website at aurora.ca/planning notices, or contact Planning and Development Services by email at planning@aurora.ca, or complete a green interested party form and leave it with our committee coordinator. Linda's holding it up, sitting at the front. Under the Planning Act, only the applicant has the right to appeal any decision of council on a planning application to the Ontario Land Tribunal. This public meeting is being audio and video recorded. Names, addresses, comments, and any other personal information are being recorded according to the Municipal Act and the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. This will help our town clerk prepare accurate minutes and to create a record that is available to the general public, including the town's website. Questions about this collection should be directed to the town clerk, Town of Aurora. I will now ask the Deputy Town Clerk to confirm that notification to the public has occurred as required by the Planning Act. Madam Deputy Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Respecting item 5.1, report number PDS 25118, application for zoning bylaw amendment 2697331 Ontario Inc., 1289 Wellington Street East, file number ZBA-2025-07, related file number SUB-2025-01. A notice of public planning meeting was hand delivered to all address property owners within 120-meter radius of the subject lands on November 6, 2025, published in the Aurora on November 13, 2025, posted on the town's website, and signs were posted on both frontages of the subject property. Notice was also made available at the community information meeting. Public notification has been provided in accordance with the Planning Act.
Thank you. I will now ask our Director of Planning and Development Services to begin with the presentation. Mr. Romano.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll ask our planner, Peter Fan, to provide a brief presentation and overview of the applications. And then I see that the applicant's consultants are online and they also have a presentation, and we'll turn it over to Heath Patel after Peter finishes with his presentation. Peter.
Thank you. Peter.
and members of the public. My name is Peter Fan. I'm a planner at the town. We are here this evening for the statutory public meeting for 1289 Wellington Street East, particularly for the zoning bylaw amendment application before you. The subject lands are located on the southwest corner of Wellington Street East and Leslie Street. The subject lands are irregular in shape with frontages along Wellington and Leslie Street. The subject lands have a total land area of approximately 14.47 acres or 5.86 hectares. The lands are currently vacant with no structures present at this time. However, the lands have areas of vegetation, woodland, wetlands, and a watercourse. The surrounding land uses are as follows. To the north, Wellington Street East, Aurora Recreation Complex, a gas station, a low-density residential development, medium and high-density residential as per the recently approved LiveWell application for 30 townhouses and Polo Club application for 3 apartment buildings with a total of 345 units. To the south, there is a golf course with along with a low-density residential development. To the east, we have Leslie Street, another gas station, and vacant employment lands. To the west, a low-density residential subdivision. The subject lands are designated in the town's official plan as medium-high density residential and environmental protection lands, with a site-specific official plan policy 66, which permits the use of detached dwelling units. There are currently no proposed amendments to the existing official plan. The subject site, as per the town zoning bylaw 6017 as amended, is currently zoned townhouse dwelling residential R8 exception zone 558, second density apartment residential RA2 exception zone 559, detached fifth density residential R5 exception zone 560, and environmental protection. As part of the zoning bylaw amendment, the applicant has provided a conceptual site plan. This site plan proposes a total of 125 residential units on the subject lands. Of the 125 residential units are 117 townhouse units, as well as 8 single detached units. The conceptual site plan offers approximately 500 vehicular parking, of which the average dwelling consists of 2 parking spaces inside of the garage and 2 on the driveway. An additional 32 spaces are proposed for visitors throughout the site. The conceptual site plan also proposes signalized accesses off of Wellington Street and Leslie. This slide here are the conceptual renderings and elevations of the proposed townhouses and single detached units provided by the applicant. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment seeks to rezone the subject lands by removing the second density apartment residential RA2 exception zone 559 and updating the existing townhouse dwelling R8 exception zone 558 and fifth density residential R5 exception 560 zones. No changes are proposed for the existing environmental protection zones. Final zoning performance standards will be evaluated by staff in detail prior to the implementing zoning bylaw amendment being brought forward to Council for enactment. The proposed draft plan of subdivision will divide the subject lands into 2 large blocks as follows. Block 1 for development lands at approximately 9.15 acres. Block 2 for environmental protection lands at 5.28 acres to protect areas with key natural heritage features. As a common element, condominium development is proposed for the subject lands. No public highways or lots will be created through the draft plan of subdivision. Instead, the enactment of a future part lot control exemption bylaw to subdivide Block 1 will be required to create the lots, and a future condominium plan will be required to create the private roads. A 0.3 meter reserve is proposed to restrict and control future connections to the adjoining public right-of-way identified as Block 3 on the proposed draft plan. Additional matters to be addressed in the processing of the application. Some of the items that have come up so far are the conformity to local and provincial policies, location and placements of future signalized traffic lights, and the availability of municipal services. The next step for the application is for staff to take comments from tonight's discussion and provide council with a recommendation report at a future committee of the whole meeting. This concludes my presentation, and if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Peter. Mr. Romano?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We can turn it over to the applicant's consultant, Heath Patel.
Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and members of Council. I will just share my screen to bring up the presentation slides, if that's all right. Is that full screen for everyone?
Yep.
Fantastic. So good evening again, Mayor and Council and members of the public and staff here this evening. My name's Heath Patel Sharp. I'm a registered professional planner with Groundswell, and we've been retained by the owner and applicant to submit the new planning applications that are before you this evening on the subject lands. I'm also joined this evening listening in by my colleague Brad Rogers, also an RPP and principal planner of Groundswell. Just to orient Council and the public on some history on the site and the previous approvals and where we are today, we've provided a timeline on the screen here. Looking back to August of 2024, we had the previous official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment applications, which granted some site-specific provisions, density and height for the subject site. And since then, Groundswell, on behalf of the owners, have submitted the new zoning bylaw amendment that is before you for the public, the statutory public meeting this evening, and the associated draft plan of subdivision, which is now based on a revised, somewhat lower density development concept. We did host a community information meeting on October 27th of 2025 at the Aurora Recreation Complex. It was attended by approximately 3 members of the public, town staff, the local councillor Thompson was there, Councillor Gallo and Councillor Weiss. And then that brings us to today at this evening's statutory public meeting. As part of the complete application, again, there was an extensive group of consultants that were retained to prepare justification materials in support of this application. I'm not joined by any of them this evening. However, if there are any questions that I'm unable to answer tonight, we'd be happy to review them with our technical experts and get back to the town with any responses if required. For the site context, I think Peter already provided a good overview of where the site is and the surrounding context, so I won't go through it in detail. But just here on the screen, we've got an image coloured up with the range of land uses in proximity of the site. Again, so the proposal before you this evening is for the zoning bylaw amendment application, which seeks a revised zoning for these lands based on a revised development proposal that now only includes townhouses and single detached dwelling built forms, which removes the previously proposed 7-story apartment buildings. We have 117 townhouse units, 8 single detached units, and all at a maximum height of 3 stories for a total of 125 units. This reaches approximately an overall density of 34 units per hectare. We have a total of 520 parking spaces being proposed, which includes both garage parking spaces, but also driveway parking spaces, along with some dedicated visitor street parking. There is no underground parking structure proposed for this development anymore. Both the townhouses and the detached dwellings have a minimum of 2 parking spaces, being 1 in the garage and 1 in the driveway, up to 4 parking spaces, being 2 in the driveway and 2 in the garage per unit, based on the different unit configurations. In addition, as I mentioned, to 32 dedicated on-street visitor spaces. It's worth noting, and I want to point it out to everyone here this evening, that the development proposal maintains the same limit of development that we established through the previous applications. And this was worked through in consultation with the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority from 2021 through till 2024. This includes site walks, staking exercises, the submission of our technical environmental impact studies, floodplain analysis and meander belt studies. And included separate submissions and reviews with the Conservation Authority through this process as well, to ensure that we're providing the appropriate setbacks and buffers for that established environmental protection zone. The development does still propose 2 intersection accesses into the site, one being at Wellington Street, aligned with the existing recreation complex intersection, and the second one being on Leslie Street, aligned with the existing intersection of Don Hillock Drive. As Peter mentioned, the lands are designated median of high urban residential and environmental protection. And the developable lands are contained entirely within the residentially designated lands, with the EP lands proposed to remain as an environmental conservation area and to accommodate a naturalised trail consistent with the town's trails master plan. The lands have site-specific policies which permit the proposed townhouse and detached dwelling built forms at the 3-storey heights. The site-specific policies also permit a density of up to 201 units per hectare. However, this proposal falls significantly within that maximum at a density of only 34 units per hectare. Again, we're not seeking any amendments to the town's official plan through these applications. So the zoning bylaw amendment application's been submitted, and which is the application that's subject to the meeting this evening, to establish a zoning that's consistent with this revised development concept. As Peter summarised, we are looking to expand the townhouse site-specific zoning on the property to remove the apartment residential zoning along Wellington and Leslie, and to make some minor revisions to some of the exception zoning standards based on the revised concept plan. As mentioned, we do have a draft plan of subdivision application that was also submitted concurrently with our zoning amendments. The purpose of this application is really to formalise the separation of the 2 development blocks, being the lands for development and the lands for the conservation, the environmental protection, as Peter mentioned. It does not propose to create individual residential unit lots through this process. And as mentioned, we will need to go through a future draft plan of condominium and part lot control, along with the associated site plan approval process, in order to implement the detailed development of these lands. Here we have a conceptual landscape plan, moving from the west, the left side of the screen here, across to the east, describing that we do have, as mentioned, the EP, the environmental lands, hatched in light green, and they're proposed to remain in their naturalised state. We do then have the trail through that EP block there, consistent with the town's trails master plan, and it's delineated to connect from Don Hillock all the way up to the recreation complex at the north. Looking at this plan, we do have some labels, number 4, to identify some of the visitor street parking areas that are scattered throughout the plan. And then we also have 3 parkettes that have been proposed. It's difficult to see on the screen. They're identified by the number 3, but we have one here, one over to the south, and then a larger central parkette in the centre there. So there's approximately over 1,500 square metres, or approximately 16,000 square feet of this parkette space. In addition, as part of this development, along Wellington Street East and Leslie Street, it would be intended that these areas of the right-of-ways would be urbanised with streetscape plantings and sidewalks. Here we have a site circulation plan that really was designed to summarize the movement of the vehicles and pedestrians throughout the site. The large pink circles and some smaller pink circles on the plan represent some key junctions, intersections, or gathering points that are a part of this development. The 3 circles internal to the development are the location of the larger amenity park and the 2 other parkettes as key gathering points. And then the site has also really been designed to promote pedestrian permeability and walkability through the site. And this is represented by the purple line work, where we've really tried to create more direct paths and travel to connect residents throughout the site to ensure ease of access, ensure that the outdoor amenity spaces are bordered on all sides by pathways, and ultimately really to encourage and promote active transportation and connectivity, both internal to the site, but beyond the site, and being able to access the municipal sidewalks and roadways. As mentioned before, we do have the vehicle intersections shown on the plan here, with the vehicle movements shown in blue. And moving along to the typical townhouse elevations, here we have the 2 different types of townhouses. Both designs are intended to be used within the development. They're similar in design, but they do have a mix of material and color palette just to break up and create some visual interest for the public realm. Similar, we have 2 different typical detached dwelling elevations. At the top of the screen here, we have the conceptual elevations for the double garage dwellings. And then at the bottom, we have the single garage dwelling elevations. Here we have the corner perspective rendering looking southwest into the development and across the site. As we can see, where I mentioned before, the conceptual urbanization and streetscape revitalization along the site's Wellington and Leslie Street frontages, with the plantings and the sidewalk extensions. And here is an internal conceptual rendering just showing the conceptual design of the townhouse buildings internal to the site. Again, thank you on behalf of Groundswell and the applicants. We'd be pleased to answer any questions or take back any feedback for consideration.
Thank you. This time I'll ask if there are any members of the public that. Sir, I'll have to ask you, no props at the mic, please. Okay. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Jordan Drudge. I live at 98 Richardson Drive in Aurora, part of the stable neighborhoods areas. Some people don't seem to be getting the messages with these applications, so I'll repeat it once more. No. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Thank you. Close the public portion of this meeting. Council, there's a recommendation that report number PDS 25-118 be received, and 2, that the comments presented at the statutory public planning meeting be addressed by Planning and Development Services in a report to a future committee of the whole meeting. Someone want to move the recommendation? Councillor Weiss, second. Councillor Thompson, thank you. Any comments or questions to the applicant or to the report? Councillor Gardner, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On our the presentation that we got from our planners, there are 2 homes to the west, D2 and part of D3, that look very close to the EP area. Could that go up on the screen?
We get that one on the screen there, Peter.
Yeah, site plan. Figure 6. That's
Thank you.
Next one.
I know it
Oh.
was the first one.
Keep going forward.
Yes.
That's the
No,
one. That's the one.
No,
No, you want the next one, Counselor.
the
right?
next one. Thank
The
you.
next one. There you go.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Counselor.
So, first of all, what is the white line that goes from top to bottom?
As I said, I believe that's the trail, but Mr. Romano, go
That's the
ahead.
trail. Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Romano. Yeah, Mr. Romano's nodding. Yes, it's the trail, Counselor.
That's the trail.
Thank you. How far is it away from D2?
The trail?
Yes.
Counselor? Mr. Romano, do you know how far the trail is from D2? Peter? Do you know the distance from D2 to the naturalized area? To your environmental protected area?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll have to take a look. Currently, I don't have that number.
Okay.
Okay. It's
They're gonna
not
get that number
only,
for it.
thank you, not only the naturalized area, also the trail, because I anticipate, as we've had many times in the past, that the people in the D2 and D3 might not be happy about that trail. So is there going to be, it looks very close to their backyard. Is there going to be any planting there so that they're screened from the trail?
Mr. Romano?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, there'll likely be fencing and planting as part of the site plan application.
Counselor?
That would be to the east of the trail?
Mr. Romano?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I mean, we haven't worked that out yet, but likely it'd be between the trail and the rear yards of the of
Yes.
those detached homes. And
Counselor?
we'll certainly make a note of that moving forward.
Counselor, go ahead.
Thank you. That might avoid some problems in the future. And the Conservation Authority was involved. I believe it's a 30-foot buffer. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Romano.
Mr. Romano?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, correct. The development limits, as the applicant has mentioned, was established a couple of years ago with the original application, and it hasn't changed. But again, we've received those studies, and they're currently under review. I believe there was a buffer. Peter, if you can call out the amount of that buffer. 30 meters. Because there is a water course that traverses that'll run through that EP area from north to south, and about a third of the site, close to 5 acres, will be conveyed to the town as part of the EPA system.
Thank you. I'd just like to know, it doesn't have to be tonight, but I'd like to know what the distance is between D2 and the very northern part of D3. It doesn't look to me like 30 meters, but you'll answer that for me.
Okay. Anything else, Counselor?
Just curious to know, it's rare that we see a development in the last several years that has this many parking spaces. It's just a comment. It's a lot of parking spaces for 117 units. I'm going to assume that the developer had the room for it, and so that's why they've done it. Also, it said that there was going to be, it shows the visitor parking areas, but that there's going to be room on the street for street parking. Am I correct in what I heard there?
Mr. Romano?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, that's correct, Councilor Gardner. So there's dedicated, it's not necessarily on-street parking, but the dedicated visitor parking spaces within the private roads. So there are, I believe, at least two locations, or 3 actually, well, there's more than that, 4 or 5. So they're basically bump outs with dedicated visitor spaces within the private road network. And the reason the parking spaces is so generous is that the majority of those townhome units have a 4-car parking, double car garage, and 2 driveway parking spaces.
Counselor?
Thank you. Yes, lucky residents, future residents. But it was mentioned, I think, that there was also going to be street parking. So I'd just like to know how wide the street is that the parking's going to be allowed.
Mr. Romano?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, just to clarify, so this will be a condominium development. So the internal road network would be a private road, typically 6 to 7 meters in width. So there's no on-street parking per se on that road, but
Okay.
I think it's visible on that conceptual site plan that the 30-odd dedicated visitor spaces are essentially within that road system, but they're
Your
bump outs. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I have some more questions, but I'll cede the floor.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. Sorry, I thought Councilor Reese was first. Just a couple questions, I guess. First, for you to either Mr. Runo or the developer, has there any been conversations with the region about a signalized intersection on Leslie? Because I see it lines up with Don Hillock, so I'm just curious about that. So perhaps to the
Mr. Patel Sharp, did you want to answer that, or?
Yes, I'm happy to take that one. So we are in discussions with York Region, and we do have a meeting with regional staff and town staff this week to discuss the signalisation of both intersections. The region does have criteria on when it warrants having signals, and I think our preference is to provide 4 signalised intersections. So we're just in discussions about the feasibility of ensuring those can be accommodated.
Councillor?
Thank you. I think that, if this passes and a report comes back at general committee, I mean, that's one of the questions that I think should be within the report. As we've seen with some other developments, I would rather deal with this in the initial phases and make some decisions with respect to it rather than dealing with it after the fact when residents come to us and start asking for it because there's, obvious issues. I think my second one, and it's more towards our own reporting. I mean, it is referenced in the application history, the fact that there currently is already approvals in place for this for 4 7-story buildings, 698 units. It's not often we get applications that actually see a decrease in the overall density. I think that it would be good because while I'm sure all members of council are quite familiar with the history of this site, I think that there should be a little bit more details in any report going forward so that the public, and specifically the residents in that area, have a better understanding of the history and what is actually allowed here. Because I have heard some comments from some residents in the area that they'd like to see less units. While I totally understand that, at the same time, I think it's important that they understand that the developer today could build significantly more than that. And so it's good for them to have all the facts and the whole picture as well. And then I guess my last comment, and this kind of dovetails into it, is that through you to Mr. Patel Sharp, I believe at the community information meeting, the comment was made that the footprint of this development follows the same footprint as what's currently in place. If that's correct or not, perhaps through you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Patel Sharp?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Thompson. That's correct. We established that limit of development where the EP lands are designated in both the zoning and the official plan, and we're seeking no amendments to the limit of that EP zone.
And that's what was approved through the OLT. Through you, Mr. Ramon. Through you to Mr. Ramon.
Mr. Romano?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Councillor?
So again, I think that it would help if, in a future report that there was that visual showing what was approved through the OLT process and kind of, mirroring that with what today the developer is asking for. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cowell?
Thank you. Most of my questions were answered other than the north leg of that internal road that hits Wellington. I assume that lines up with the SARC. And is there an intent to put signalized lights there?
Mr. Romano?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, that's correct. I mean, they're showing that those internal roads do line up with on Wellington opposite to SARC and on Leslie opposite Don Hillock. And the applicant mentioned they're working with the region, and that's one of our issues as well. If development does proceed, we'll want to see signalizations at both of those intersections. We need to work with the region because it's under their control, but that's a comment that we made and certainly a condition that we'll impose moving forward.
Councillor?
So yeah, that was going to be my next question, whether or not it would be a condition that we would require if the application was to move forward through you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Romano?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, that's from my perspective. We would like to see both of those signalized. I know from my time at the when we're dealing with this at the board and the region, they obviously had no issue with the signalizing the Wellington Street access opposite Sark. My recollection was they didn't feel that the Don Hillock and Leslie signalization was warranted at this time, but moving forward, we'll continue to work with the region and the applicant to see if we can get both intersections signalized.
Counselor?
Thank you.
Counselor Weiss?
Yes, thanks. I had asked the same question of the width of the buffer, but thinking about the signalization, could you tell me about the width of the street between the two signals? Because my concern there is that this may be a convenient way for people going east on Wellington and want to go through and turn right and then turn right onto Leslie. And I'm just concerned about traffic and traffic control and size. Is there do you have some numbers on that road? Because it looks similar to the other interior roads through you, Mayor, to possibly.
Mr. Romano, I'm
Mr.
assuming
Romano?
it's a condo road.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So, Councilor Weiss, if you're referring to the width of the internal proposed roads,
Yes, the one that's on the bottom on the south and
right? So,
east side.
so those internal roads would be private roads, and we haven't seen a detailed site plan yet, but typically they're 6 to 7 meters in width. They would have to be, the throat would have to be widened if at Leslie and at Wellington to accommodate turning movements and signalization. But the internal road network would be a private road, and they would be maximum 7 meters in width. But they would be widened at the throat as they terminate at the Leslie and Wellington.
Counselor?
Thanks. I just bring it up as a comment because I wonder about traffic patterns as people tend to take the shortest distance between 2 points. So just a comment for the planners.
That all?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Counselor Gardner, second time, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, that's a very good point because I could see that a lot of people will take that shortcut. And I don't know how we could prevent that to reduce the traffic in the subdivision, but it is a very valid point. I thank Councillor Weiss for that. Where is the snow storage going to be?
Romano?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't know, Peter, if we haven't, if that's been indicated on a site plan, but excuse me, that'd be a matter at the site plan stage, but it looks like they've got plenty of room to accommodate snow storage. Again, snow storage for these private developments would be privately administered though.
Counselor?
Right. Thank you. The last question is not the two small parkettes, but the other larger common area. Looks quite small to me. Could you say how many square feet that is?
Peter?
Do you, Mr. Mayor, from what I see from the conceptual site plan, it's 611 meters squared.
Counselor?
Mm-hmm. And thank you, will it border the road? Will it border Leslie?
Peter?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Through you, Mr. Mayor. No, it will not border.
Okay,
Counselor?
thank you. That's all I've got. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Counselor Weiss, second time.
And it has to do with the sidewalks and connectivity. And I saw that on the diagrams that we had sidewalks around the perimeter. And thinking about signalization, I'm not familiar with that particular corner about whether there's signalization for crosswalks. I don't know what's on the east side of Leslie Street with respect to crosswalks, if there would be any there. But since we're going to have a large number of residents here, I just want to make sure that the pedestrian connections are going to be secured for them through you to Mr. Ramuno?
Mr. Romano?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's certainly something we'll have a look at with the applicant in the region when we have those discussions.
Counselor?
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Counselor Gardner, you already spoke twice.
Thank you. I'd just like to say that that has to be a given with the sidewalk connectivity. Thank you.
Seeing none other, call the vote. Counselor Kim? See the red bar at the top? Hit that. Counselor Gardner?
Yes.
Counselor Gardner's yes. That carries. If you want to stay informed, just make sure you sign one of those sheets. Yeah, and we'll let you know when it comes to committee. Thank you. Confirming bylaw. Someone want to move that? Counselor Thompson, Counselor Weiss. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Motion to adjourn. Counselor Kim, Counselor Thompson, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.